Hey everybody, welcome to today's video. I got a lot of information coming at you. If you've ever wanted to hunt bears in Michigan, Wisconsin, or Minnesota, I'm going to tell you all about how to draw a tag, how long it takes you to get a tag, how the zones work, and everything like that. There is a lot of information coming at you right now. So each of these states are different with different seasons. They all only have fall seasons, which start around the 1st of September. Each of them have different application periods, and I might as well start in alphabetical order, so I'll start with Michigan. All of these three states have bear hunting divided up into zones, and in Michigan they are named, in Wisconsin they have letters, and in Minnesota they have numbers. So they're all different a little bit, but the thing that's unique about Michigan is that they have three different bear seasons. It takes longer to draw a tag in the first season, which is natural because most people want to have first chance at it. So their first season is early September, and then you got a mid-September, and then you got a season that goes into October. The drawing chances are lower. It takes more points, I guess is the way to put it, for the early season. And just a little bit of background on points. All three states use a point system which is called preference points, which means that each time that you apply for a tag and do not get one, you get a point. And so they take the people that have the most points, draw the tags first. So if you've got 10 points and somebody else only has 9 points, they're going to take all the people that have 10 points, they'll all get a tag before they dip into the pool of people that have 9 points. So in Michigan, it's anywhere from 2 to 3, all the way up to 7, 8, 9, 10 for some of the best zones in the first season. But there are also several areas where you can draw with 3 or 4 points that are good zones, and then like the most coveted areas of the UP, a lot of those you can draw the third season maybe like every other year. So you can hunt more often in Michigan than you can in some of these other states. So you can apply for tags in Michigan between May 1 and June 1, and then they announce the winners of the tags about a month later. The UP of Michigan has the highest bear population, although northern Michigan, there are some areas that are very, very dense with a lot of bears, and the bears are continuing to work their way south. Bear populations in all three of these states have been continuing to expand over the last decade or more. I'll put a link in the description box below so you can see the draw odds in the various zones in Michigan. Okay, moving on to Minnesota. Minnesota has changed a lot in the last few years, and Minnesota is divided up into these zones that are numbered, and then they also have the no quota area. And the no quota area has traditionally been an area that's outside of the classic bear habitat, but the bear population has expanded greatly in the last 15 to 20 years in the no quota area. As bear populations expand in the state, they're moving outward. The interesting thing about the no quota zone is there's no limit on the number of hunters, there's no limit on the number of tags, and you can just go buy a tag over the counter and hunt bears. So that's great, you can hunt every year, but it's also not so great because the areas that have a lot of bears can be really crowded, really dense with hunters, and extremely competitive. But there are more bears now being killed outside of the quota area in Minnesota than there are within the quota area, the traditional bear habitat. So the bear population is very high in Minnesota right now. Minnesota also has a preference point system where you apply for a tag each year, and each year that you are not drawn, you get another point, and so the more points you have, the more likely you are to be drawn. Some of the zones in Minnesota you can draw with 2 or 3 points, but the points creep is getting worse, and so some of them are up to Zone 45 now is up to about 7 points before you're guaranteed a tag. There, of course, is the Boundary Waters area where you have to paddle a canoe to get your bait back in there and everything like that. They don't even fill the number of tags that are available in there, and so you can draw that one every year, but it's an extremely difficult hunt. You have to haul a lot of bait in, and then you also have to get your bear out without it spoiling, so very few people ever actually do this hunt. So the majority of zones in Minnesota right now are taking 4 to 5 points to draw. And you can actually just apply for a point in Minnesota, and also it only costs you $4. And you just go online and you apply for zone 99, so you're not actually applying for a zone, you're just applying for a point. And after you get close to where you think you might draw, then you're gonna go ahead and, like for example, I guide in zone 27, and last year 79% of people in their 5th year drew. So if you had 5 points in zone 27, your odds are very, very high of drawing. So most people just apply for zone 99 until they get to the point where they have a chance to draw. And right now I believe last year there was over 20,000 people that applied for zone 99. So points creep is not going away anytime soon unless the DNR starts allowing a few more tags in each zone. And honestly, they could allow 10 to 20, 25 more tags in most of the zones, and at least it would probably stop the points creep. Certainly the bear population could handle it. A note about Minnesota bear hunting right now, there's a lot of frustration among hunters who feel like that we could be harvesting more bears, and people that are in the woods all the time, your hunters and trappers, are seeing more bears. We're having more bear nuisance complaints, and I think there's going to have to be some changes over the next couple of years here, and the DNR is going to have to take a hard look at possibly allowing some more bear harvest in most of the zones. The bear application period opens in Minnesota around the first part of April, usually in the first few days of April, and it ends the first Saturday in May. So you got to have your application in at that time, and then it's usually about a month before they announce the winners of the tags. And the interesting thing about Minnesota is you have to buy the tag if you draw, or it goes back on sale. So quite a few years ago we had anti-hunters that were applying for tags and then they wouldn't buy them. So all it was doing is disrupting the harvest, because there were so many tags that were applied for, and then they were taking the place of a hunter who could have been having a bear hunt. So Minnesota changed that a few years ago. So now if you draw a tag, you have to purchase it by August 1st, or it will go back on sale the first Monday in August, and they go on sale at noon, and there typically can be 200 or 300 of these tags available, and they're literally all gone in 30 seconds. So people are getting them, but it's extremely difficult to get those surplus tags. And then the season opens September 1st every year, and unlike some of the other states, there's a baiting season where you can only start baiting about 2 weeks before the season. It's typically the Friday 2 weeks before September 1st, and that's when you can start baiting. And then the season opens September 1st and runs through the middle of October. Also, one thing to note about the 3 states is that in Michigan, only 5% of the tags are available to non-residents, where in Minnesota and Wisconsin, all of the tags are available to both residents and non-residents equally, so there's no restriction about resident or non-resident. And in Minnesota, it's usually a little less than 20% of the tags are drawn by non-residents, and I think in Wisconsin it's even a little less than that, but I have never actually researched the stats for that. So Wisconsin and Michigan are different than Minnesota in that they have hound hunting as well as bait hunting, and I'm not going to go into the hound hunting in this video, but that's just something that you need to be aware of, because in Wisconsin the seasons start around September 1st, but they alternate from year to year, where one year the bait hunters get to go first for a week before the hound hunting starts, and the next year the hound hunters get to go first for a week before the baiter starts. So if you're a baiting hunter, you might want to consider trying to draw a tag in a specific year where the bait hunters get to go first, and you have a week to hunt before the dogs are turned loose in the woods. So Wisconsin has a drawing period that is the previous year. So you have to apply by December 10th of the previous year for the following year's hunt. And you can start baiting in April, so you can actually bait all summer, and that's why the application period is so much earlier. So the zones in Wisconsin were completely redone just 3 or 4 years ago now, where it used to be just A, B, and C, and now they've got other zones where it's divided up a little differently, and this is a way to hopefully reduce the number of points that it takes to draw a tag. Zones A and B are long-term zones. In fact, it's 11 to 12 points to draw in some of those northern areas. So, you know, you're only going to hunt bear a few times in a lifetime. And the more southern zones where the bear population is expanding, there's some areas that are really marginal bear habitats where you can draw every year or every other year. But if you're in an area with pretty good bear habitat, you're looking at maybe every 2 to 3 years to draw. So that's a rundown of the 3 states. I hope that's been helpful. Probably we'll do a video like this on the western U.S. and the eastern U.S. and the southern U.S. where more bear seasons are being added all the time. Missouri just got a bear season. Florida's getting a bear season. Black bear populations are expanding throughout the United States and Canada. And I do need to do one on how to get a tag in Canada, which is completely different than anything we see in the United States. And each of the provinces are different as well. So thank you for following along, and we'll see you on the next video.